Scriptural evidence. The command to turn to God. All this will become clearer if we consider the three classes of command mentioned earlier. The Lord often summons us, both in the law and in the prophets, to turn to Him. The prophet, however, answers in a somewhat different vein. "Turn me, Lord, and I will be turned. Since you have turned me, I have repented," etc. He bids us also circumcise our hearts. But through Moses he declares that this circumcision is done by his own hand. Many times he demands of men a new heart, but testifies that he alone can make it new. What now will those say who invoke God's precepts in order to exalt man's power and to blot out God's grace? Grace which, as we know, alone allows his commands to be fulfilled. The second group of precepts which we have described is straightforward. Honoring God, serving and complying with His will, obeying His commands and following His teaching. But there are countless passages which show that whatever we have by way of righteousness, holiness, piety and purity is a free gift from Him. An example of the third type of command is found in Paul and Barnabas' exhortation to believers to persevere in the grace of God. In another place, however, Paul makes clear the source of this strength. "My brothers," he says, "be strong in the power of the Lord." He warns them too not to grieve God's Spirit, by whom we are sealed as we await our redemption. Now what he there commands he elsewhere asks of the Lord in prayer, since it is beyond man's ability. He begs God to make the Thessalonians worthy of his calling, to fulfill in them what he has purposed in his goodness, and to bring to completion the work of faith. The more cunning and malign quibble over these proofs, because they say nothing prevents us combining our strength with God's grace, who thus helps us in our weakness. They bring up a few passages in the prophets where God appears to divide between himself and us the power to turn. For example, "Turn to me and I will turn to you." We have already described the help we get from God, and there is no need to repeat it here. Our only concern is to prove that our opponents vainly credit man with the ability to fulfill the law simply because God commands us to obey it. For it is clear that God's grace is necessary to do what he commands, and to that end it is promised to us. As for the verse, "Turn to me and I will turn to you," it provides not the least support for their error. For the grace by which God renews the heart for holiness of life is not what is meant when God is said to turn. What is meant is the love and goodwill he shows us in causing us to prosper. In the same way he is said to depart from us when he sends us affliction. Because Israel, having long endured misery and disaster, complained that God had turned away from them, he replies that his goodness will not fail them if they return to an upright life and to him, who is the rule of all righteousness. We thus distort the passage by taking it to mean that our turning to God is a work which we effectually share with him. We have, however, somewhat skated over this question, because more will have to be said about it in our chapter on the law.